Hi guys, and welcome to this week's session. So we're going to be working on another digital piece. We're doing a lot of digital stuff recently, but trying to emulate a kind of more traditional looks. That's the sort of general approach we've been taking. And we're going to be doing a landscape sketch. So just a sort of a single session color sketch, so 20 minutes, 25 minutes, working from a reference. So, doing the wrong thing. We're going to be adding an image. So insert a photo that I just got. So this is a photo of the Isle of Skye in the UK. And so this is the whole image. I'm not going to be working from the whole piece. I'm going to zoom in and kind of pick a section to work from. And I'm thinking that maybe this is quite nice. Got a little bit of foreground. Some nice colours in the background. And I don't want to work straight over white, so what I'm going to do is take a sort of average tone, an average base, which is going to be kind of like a warm grey out of the colours that are there. It's a bit lighter. And we'll pull that into a layer below this one. And then we'll put a new layer. And what we want to do to begin with, I'm not going to actually do, so sometimes I do a sort of wash drawing type thing that we talk about a lot on this channel when I'm doing lessons. I'm just going to put my drawing guide on. I'm going to just shuffle the image across a little bit. Just so it's in the center. Get rid of the guide now. I've got my new layer. So I'm going to start just with a really big round brush. Mixture of flat and round. So this kind of size probably. And one of the advantages of working, I'm going to put this layer underneath, working digitally is you don't really have to worry too much about, you're not going to build too much paint up at any point. So the exercise is going to be trying to match colours. So we've got up in the top sky, we've got a sky which is somewhere between green and blue. So let's try that. And that's not too bad. So let's get that kind of locked in over the top here. Maybe a little bit more of a purpley blue. A little bit more of a slightly more greeny blue, a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit grayer actually. Grayer and lighter. That's a bit better. Then We'll get our darker blue for the water in. That's not too bad as a first attempt. So just whack that in across there and get this shape that's sort of cutting in. So you need a suggestion of that, sort of those rocky colours in the foreground. Now I'm going to take, it's a little bit too red, we want to go a bit more, sort of moving towards purpley to some of these colours in the back. Maybe go a bit bigger with my brush. Kind of grey purpley. A bit more blue. Even more blue than that, actually. Back there, yeah, a little bit like that. And then more of a intense orange. So if we zoom out, you can see colours feel, they're not identical, but they're kind of like, they're in the ballpark, and that's what we're going for. So we just start to kind of keep laying in more little shifts, so sort of grayer, lighter colours, maybe even grayer than that for these clouds. Putting a little bit of a fade on that mountain top. Put that little kind of darker stretch into the water there. And maybe just a slightly more kind of greeny shift as well. And lighter down here. So I'm going to go for try to kind of shade a little bit of more of a greeny colour over this purple. So I'm starting to create like a broken colour with that. Start to blend a little bit. To the illuminated side and get a little bit more of a sense of the shadows. Just adding some blends now. Working on sort of edge variety between different patches of colour. And we can go in and do a similar sort of thing with the clouds. So just make a slightly bigger brush. A slightly brighter, sort of warmer colour. Going in the centre here, sort of smudged out. So I'm just sort of spiralling around and letting my hand kind of lift off a little bit. Let's get a little bit of a warmer edge. So we can take a little bit of the sky colour, make it a tiny bit lighter and sort of shape, using a smaller brush than we used last time, just sort of shape back into the cloud a little bit. So rather than trying to kind of build the cloud shape out, by drawing it we can sort of also cut back into a little bit, as you see there. Yeah, that's not so bad. It's more of a kind of dark grey green under here as well, just trying to get the cloud, that little cloud pop. So as well as sort of trying to look at, observe the colours, I'm also trying to design a piece that I like. So it's not exclusively just, we're just copying what we see. Sort of always making decisions about what to leave out, what to put in terms of detail, because you're never going to, you know, unless you just infinitely work on it, you will eventually get as much detail as your reference. If you're working from life, that wouldn't be the case, because there's sort of always more detail at different scales of life when you look at them closer. But if you're working from a reference like a photo like this, there is a certain point where you would probably get pretty much the same information down that you can see in your piece. And you get some of these darker little clouds up top as well. Yeah, it's not looking too bad for the clouds. And I'm fairly happy with the mountain. Get a little bit more, little touch of like lighter colours kind of coming in and hitting apart from that main sort of focal bit. That could maybe do with being just a little bit pinker to make it a little bit more like an orange. So just going in and kind of breaking this shadow colour a little bit. And when I say breaking, I mean just kind of patching in a few different colours next to each other, which from a distance, when we kind of zoom out, merges together and you sort of have a feeling of the colour. But if we zoom right in, I've kind of put these weird patches of colour, which is sort of what you get in shadows. So we'll go a little bit more intense, maybe a little bit more bluish for these deepest shadows kind of cutting into the mountain. One of the more interesting bits of the piece is this kind of cleft in the... And that I think could do with being kind of more evidently blue than some of the parts of the mountain in shadow. I think it just reads a little bit more nicely that way. Maybe a little bit darker than that though. Yeah, it's not too bad for that mountainside. It's obviously not completely fleshed out, but we're not going for that. We're just going for a sort of general impression. We're trying to just get a feel for and capture the scene. So I might pull some of those shadows a little bit darker, higher up. Blur this bit in the background a little bit. Just going to put a few little extra patches of kind of like brighter light hitting the center of this mountain. A little bit, I've actually gone brighter than the reference, but I think it's kind of nice. So I'm trying to play it up a little bit, the way the light's hitting. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. The foreground, the water I'm not entirely unhappy with, just having it kind of like that. Maybe a strip of a light color just at the horizon, I think helps establish that. Maybe just be a bit more specific with this particular rock that sort of sticks out in silhouette, and break up a little bit the foreground edge, and then maybe just a little bit of this kind of grayish, these lighter grayish shapes, the rock in shadow, kind of catching a little bit of sort of cool reflected light. Gives it a kind of quite an evening light feel. So just a touch of that. I won't put loads of it in. Maybe make a slightly darker variant as well. Also a good time to pop to transition into more of a flat brush. Just use that to disrupt this foreground a little bit. just make an extra layer just with some black and just sort of wash that over this foreground, and then just knock it back a little bit. But yeah, that's looking pretty good as a little sketch. So we're going to do more of these, but you get the idea. You can either, work from a window, go out, sketch somewhere, if you're near any nice countryside. Or you can just find a reference like this, like I just looked on Unsplash. Got this really nice photographic reference. And it's just a way to kind of mess around with different styles, different subjects. I'm just trying to get this kind of light reflection just at the water's edge. Oh, that's quite nice. Yeah, you can sort of play around with subjects. You get a feel for like different forms, shapes that you see in landscapes without having to like, in this case, you don't have to go out and find a location. You obviously can if you're able to, that's ideal. But if you don't, you want to just do a sketch in front of the TV at night, something like that, just to keep learning, keep practicing, and improving your eye, improving your sort of colour matching skills. Yeah, these little sketches are great. So we'll be doing another one of these next week, probably just another single session piece, working with some different colours, a different sort of subject matter. But yeah, that's it for this week. As always, if you've got any questions, just comment below and I will reply to your comment. And you can follow us on YouTube if you want to keep up to date with new videos from myself and other tutors and students from the school. And you can also click the link in our description to visit the website and see what sorts of paid qualifications we offer as a school as well. But yeah, that's it for this week, and I'll see you guys soon.